The Royal Crown Hotel sparkled under the night sky like a palace of glass and gold. Its doors revolved endlessly, welcoming the wealthy, the powerful, the ambitious. Inside, marble floors reflected crystal chandeliers, while soft jazz floated through the air like whispers of luxury. It was the kind of place where secrets could hide in plain sight. And on this night, one man believed his secret was safe. Arman Malik entered the hotel with a smirk, his tailored suit perfectly pressed, his arm wrapped around a woman whose laughter rang like wind chimes. A woman who wasn't his wife. He whispered promises into her ear, promises dipped in charm but poisoned with betrayal. But fate has a way of unraveling illusions, because in just a few steps, in just a few stolen moments, his confidence would vanish, his breath would falter, his heart would pound in terror. For standing across the lobby, not as a guest, not as a stranger, but as the newly crowned owner of the hotel, was his wife. And in that moment Arman Malik froze. Before we continue with this shocking and powerful story, make sure you like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Universe, your home for emotional, life-changing stories that will leave you inspired. The man who thought he had it all. Arman wasn't born into wealth. He grew up in a modest neighborhood, the kind where neighbors shared tea, where children played cricket in narrow lanes, and where dreams were often bigger than wallets. But Arman was different. He carried ambition like fire in his chest. He studied hard, polished his appearance, and learned how to charm his way into rooms that weren't meant for him. And then he met Ayesha. She wasn't just beautiful. She was determined, disciplined, and full of quiet strength. Her late father's textile business had been small, but with her relentless vision, she turned it into a flourishing empire. Where others saw risk, she saw opportunity. Where others gave up, she pushed forward. Arman loved her, or at least, he thought he did. To the outside world, they were the perfect couple. A man in sharp suits and a woman with grace in her every step. Together, they were admired, envied, even feared. But admiration is a dangerous drug, and Arman, intoxicated by his own image, began to crave more attention, more thrill, more validation. That's when Zara entered his life. Zara, the other woman. Zara was young, bold, and dazzling in her own way. She laughed loudly, spoke without filters, and made Arman feel like a king. With her, he wasn't just Ayesha's husband living in her shadow. With Zara, he felt alive, important, powerful. She adored the expensive dinners, the gifts, the trips. And Arman adored the way she looked at him, the way she fed his ego. He convinced himself it was harmless, that it was just fun. After all, Ayesha was too busy managing her empire to notice, but Ayesha always noticed. Ayesha's silence for months. Ayesha lived with quiet suspicion. She saw the late-night texts he tried to hide, the sudden work trips, the way his cologne smelled different when he came home. She felt the distance, the coldness in his embrace. And though her heart broke in silence, she didn't confront him immediately. Because Ayesha was not impulsive, she was patient, and patience in her hands was a weapon. She poured herself into her business, into rebuilding the textile empire her father had left her. But destiny had something else in store. The Royal Crown Hotel, once a jewel of the city, was failing. Investors backed out, guests complained. The owners were desperate to sell. Most saw it as a sinking ship. Ayesha saw it as a chance to rise. She bought it, quietly, boldly, and she rebuilt it, floor by floor, service by service, detail by detail, until the royal crown shone brighter than ever. And tonight, fate had delivered her husband to her doorstep, with his mistress on his arm. The night of truth, the moment the elevator doors opened and Ayesha stepped into the lobby, the entire atmosphere shifted. Her emerald silk dress shimmered under the lights. Her heels clicked against the marble floor like the beats of a drum. Her presence was magnetic. Heads turned, whispers spread, but her eyes locked onto Arman. His smirk vanished. His hand slipped away from Zara's. His heart thundered against his chest. Ayesha, he whispered, his voice trembling. Ayesha's lips curved into a calm, devastating smile. What a surprise. The word surprise cut like a blade. Zara frowned, confused. Arman, who is she? Ayesha's gaze shifted to Zara, her voice steady. I'm his wife. The lobby gasped, conversations halted. The air turned electric with tension. Zara's hand fell from Arman's arm as if burned. Arman's world collapsed in that single sentence. Behind the closed door later, in the penthouse office, Arman tried desperately to explain. Ayesha, please, it's not what it looks like. I was lonely, you were always working, always too busy. I made a mistake. Ayesha stood near the window, the city lights glowing behind her. Her face was calm, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. A mistake, she repeated softly. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is missing dinner. What you did wasn't a mistake, Arman. It was a choice. A choice you made every single day when you lied to me. When you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me, while your heart was somewhere else. Arman dropped to his knees, desperation spilling out. I can change. I'll end it with her. Please, Ayesha, don't leave me. I need you. Finally, a tear escaped her eye, but her voice remained strong. You don't need me. You need the image of me, the successful wife, the businesswoman, the one who makes you look powerful. But you forgot one thing, Arman. I was never your shadow. I was the light, and you chose darkness. She walked past him, her footsteps echoing like thunder. She didn't slam the door. She didn't shout. She simply left, and that silence was louder than any scream. The aftermath news of the scandal spread like wildfire. The whispers from that night became headlines. Business partners pulled away. Friends stopped answering Arman's calls. And Zara, she vanished the moment his wealth and status began to crumble. He was left alone, with nothing but regret. Ayesha, on the other hand, flourished. The Royal Crown Hotel became a symbol of her strength. Her textile business expanded internationally. And more importantly, she found peace, not because she forgot the betrayal, but because she refused to let it define her. Arman's reflection one evening months later. Arman stood outside the Royal Crown, watching as luxury cars lined up, as guests in gowns and tuxedos entered the hotel that once humiliated him. He saw Ayesha inside, greeting investors with grace, her laughter genuine, her spirit unbroken. For the first time, he saw her not as his wife, not as the woman he betrayed, but as the extraordinary force she had always been. And in that moment he realized the truth. He had lost the greatest treasure of his life, not because someone stole her, but because he had thrown her away. The message life teaches us through pain. Arman's downfall was arrogance, betrayal, and blindness to the gift he already had. Ayesha's triumph was not revenge, but resilience. She rose not to prove him wrong, but to prove herself right. Love is fragile. Trust is priceless. And when betrayal shatters them both, the strongest thing you can do is choose dignity, choose yourself, and rise from the ashes stronger than ever. Before we close this story, remember, if this touched your heart, please like this video, share your feelings in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Universe for more life-changing stories that inspire hope, strength, and kindness. Ending that night at the Royal Crown Hotel became a turning point etched in memory. For Arman, it was the night his empire of lies fell apart. For Ayesha, it was the night she walked fully into her power. She was no longer just his wife. She was her own story, her own empire, her own victory. And as she stood beneath the chandelier, her eyes glistening with strength, she whispered to herself, "Sometimes life doesn't give you justice. It gives you the chance to write your own ending." And she did.